Okay, so what if you could literally command success, health, and even happiness just by using a kind of hidden power inside your own mind? Today, we're diving into a really fascinating system from over 100 years ago, all laid out in a 1916 guide to something the author called personal magnetism. So how did this one guy believe our thoughts could become the most powerful force on Earth? Let's get into it.
The author, O. Hara, he was not messing around with his claims. He truly believed that organized thought was a force more powerful than money, a force that could, command love, get rid of poverty, and literally shape your entire life. I mean, that's a huge claim for 1916, and honestly, it's a huge claim even for today.
So you gotta ask, right? How exactly did this system claim to turn our regular, everyday thoughts into some kind of world-changing force? Well, it turns out the author laid out a very specific step-by-step process for doing just that.
It all starts with really getting your head around the main concept. The big secret, according to Hara, is all about personal magnetism.
So what did he mean by that? Well, it's not just about being charming or charismatic. It's a very specific mix of three things. First, organized willpower. Second, really good physical health. And third, the ability to project this tangible magnetic force that literally pulls people and the right circumstances toward you.
Now, to understand how you're supposed to project this force, we first have to look at where it comes from. And the author had this very mechanical, almost industrial age view of how the human mind works.
I want you to picture your brain not as, a chaotic mess of ideas, but as a high-tech dynamo, like a finely tuned machine whose only job is to generate thought, just like a dynamo in a power plant generates electricity. And this analogy, it's absolutely crucial for the entire system.
And this slide right here perfectly shows the difference in the quality of that power. You can see it, right? A concentrated, organized thought travels like a laser beam, straight to its target. But an unorganized thought, it just follows that weak zigzag path, losing energy until it just fizzles out.
So how do these thought waves actually get from point A to point B? Well, according to the science of the time, they travel through something called the ether. Now get this. This was believed to be an invisible, kind of jelly-like substance that filled all of space. And just like it carried light from distant stars to Earth, it was also the perfect conductor for our thought waves, letting them travel any distance, instantly.
But who or what is controlling this dynamo? Who's flipping the switch? The author calls it the oversoul, or more simply, your will. This is the master of the machine. It's the force that decides the strength, the direction, and the ultimate impact of every single thought your brain produces.
Okay, so if your will is the boss, then the very first practical step is to train it. The book actually lays out some clear exercises for building up this mental muscle.
And what's wild is how modern this approach feels. He says, don't try to meditate for an hour on your first day. Start small. Pick something you're actually interested in and just hold it in your mind for 1 minute. Really try to visualize it. Then, day by day, you just slowly increase the time. It's all about building mental stamina, not sprinting to the finish line. So once you get the hang of projecting your thoughts outward, there's this more advanced technique. Instead of sending those thought rays out into the world, you turn them inward, focusing them from your brain down to your heart. According to the author, this is how you tap into a really deep, internal source of knowledge and spiritual power. But, all this mental training, that's only half the battle. To generate and store this powerful magnetic energy, your body has to be a worthy container for it. And the foundation of all this physical prep is the breath. The book lays out a very specific 3-step method. You stand up straight, you take a slow, deep breath in through your nose, but you start it from your belly, not your chest. You hold it for just a second, then you exhale just as slowly. This, he claimed, creates fresh blood and fills every part of your body with so-called animal magnetism. And he pairs this breathing with some simple exercises. What's interesting is, the goal isn't to become a bodybuilder. In fact, he specifically warns against using heavy weights. Instead, the focus is on tensing your muscles to build magnetic tension, using really light dumbbells to strengthen the chest, and doing dynamic movements like this dry swim to get the whole body activated. Okay, and now for a part that is, well, it's a really fascinating, if totally dated, look into the psychology of the era. The author basically divides people into 2 types. The magnetic temperament, he says, is fair-skinned, kind of nervous, with an overactive brain that needs to conserve energy. On the other hand, the electric temperament is dark-skinned, more sluggish, and actually needs stimulation to get going.
So, you've trained your mind and you've charged your body. The final step is to put it all together, to actually project your influence out into the world. And this brings us to the absolute core of the technique. Before you can project a feeling, you have to become that feeling. The book calls this critical step emotional saturation. You have to literally flood your entire being with a universal emotion, like pure courage or absolute love, until you are a walking, talking embodiment of it. And here it is, the pinnacle of the whole system, the 4 steps to influence somebody from far away. First, you become the emotion. Second, you visualize the person in perfect detail. Third, you actually call out their name, drawing their magnetic energy to you, which supposedly makes them receptive. And finally, you send your message and your emotional force back to them.
So what's the ultimate goal here? It's not about brute force mind control. As the author explains, it's way more subtle. The whole idea is to project your thoughts so seamlessly that it appears on the screen of their mind as their own idea. They just act on an impulse that they believe came from them.
So, after digging through this century-old system, we're left with a pretty big question. Is personal magnetism a guide to some forgotten mystical power, a real force that we've just lost touch with? Or is it just a masterclass in psychology, discipline, and the undeniable power of focused intention, all just wrapped up in the language of its time? What do you think?